Hello, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. It's Sunday Night Live. I'm joined by Ross. How you doing, pal?
Yeah, very good, Mark.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. I just want to start off. We've got loads to talk about tonight. Obviously, the news about Zidane is worrying or pleasing to some. But what I want to say, first of all, is that, look, I don't think I've had a more up and down 24 hours than yesterday. From the Friday night where we thought Mourinho was going to get the sack, to the Saturday morning to when he's not getting the sack, to the half time when he is getting the sack, to the full time where he's not getting the sack again. It's just been a ridiculous time. And I just want to say, look, it doesn't matter whether you're Mourinho in or you're Mourinho out. What I am seeing is a very divided fan base, and I'm always against that. If you're Mourinho in, great. If you're undecided, great. If you're Mourinho out, great. Whatever. The bottom line is, I just feel that it's disgusting, yet again, the way Manchester United fans have been treated over this weekend. You've got United fans going in on each other, divided fan base, and I think it's bloody disgusting, and it's been caused by the club, yet again. Now, I'm not going to go with what Gary Neville said to totally say, oh, you know, Mourinho's the man. I still think Mourinho needs to go. But where I do agree with Gary Neville is the running of this club is banter. It's embarrassing. United fans are the ones who've been through the mill, and the United fans are the ones who've been embarrassed, and United fans are the ones who are suffering yet again and attacking each other because of the way we're being played by the club. Because, yet again, there's no leadership on the pitch, there's no leadership from Mourinho, and there's no leadership from the board. The reality is, you have got United fans who quite rightly want Mourinho out of the club. Friday night, they're elated. Saturday morning, you've got people who want Mourinho to stay. They're elated because he's staying. It's a bloody joke. It's a joke. And the board, we're the people who make this club what it is. The fans are the people who put the money into the club. The fans are the people who make Manchester United the biggest club in the world. Yet the fans are the people who are mugged off and like mushrooms. We're in the bloody dark. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And it's the one thing nobody's actually mentioned over this weekend, whether it's the media, the papers, the players, the club, the manager. Nobody's come out and apologised to the fans and said, we're really sorry how you've been manipulated and played like bloody idiots this weekend, because Friday night you think your manager's being sacked, Saturday you think he's staying, and then, well, the performance is the performance. But I'm bloody furious with it. I'm absolutely furious with it. And instead of arguing with each other, why don't you bloody unite, respect everybody's opinion, and just say, actually, we've all been treated like a load of shit this weekend by this banter club pissing about and not bothering to put out an official line straight away. Like, how long did it take them to... I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, Ross, but I'm furious. And it doesn't really matter to me what people's opinion is. We've been played like bloody idiots, while the rest of our rival fans lap it up and laugh at the bloody pantomime that is Manchester United.
We've been a bit of a pantomime for quite a while, to be honest, and that's just down to the board and the owners, to be honest, and that disappoints. Yeah, a lot different should have been done, not only this weekend, over the summer. Maybe even giving Jose that new contract. I thought that was a bit bizarre. We are being played for fools. We're cash cows, each and every one of us, myself as well. You know, I go out, I buy the shirts every year. Is that benefiting my club? Not at the minute. It's just going into the Glazers' pocket, to be honest.
You're breaking up a little bit there, but I think it's... I mean, I'm just reading some of the comments. Sagti says, we need a fresh start. When have United ever apologised for anything, says Cress Wilson. I just think it's abysmal. And as I say, I want Mourinho to go. I can't be a hypocrite. I refuse to be a flip-flop. I'm going to ask that Ross next, but I refuse to change on that. But I do respect people who are Mourinho in, because it's their choice and they've made their mind up. I don't care about that. I'm not too fussed about that. I don't feel the need to convince you to be Mourinho out. That's not the way I work. I've never worked like that. I'll make my own mind up. You'll make your mind up. But what I don't like is that actually all of us, whatever side of the fence you sit on, all of us have been played and mugged off and emotionally stressed this weekend, one way or another, before we even had the bloody game, which put us through the mill anyway. But, you know, at times over that weekend before the match, if you were Mourinho out, you were happy, then you were very sad. And if Mourinho in, you were really sad, then very happy. And that's not acceptable from the club. And that's because, I mean, I don't know what you think about it, Ross, the Daily Mirror article, but for me, it wasn't just that. It was Phil Brown from America as well, who we've had on the show, who's very, very good. And he was basically saying, look, it's very true that Mourinho's looking for a way out here. I mean, something was clearly going on. And I just think the club are just like, they did it, you said it yesterday, they've done it with Moyes, they've done it with Van Gaal, they did it with Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement. And it's no other club. I don't know how long Mourinho's going to be here now, but no other club would ever have this in October, that basically your manager was sacked on Friday night and kept on Saturday, because that's basically what we had this weekend.
Yeah, no other club will do it. You're right, and supposed to be the biggest club in the world with the biggest budget, and things like this shouldn't be getting leaked. It shouldn't be happening. We should be the most organised and probably the most secretive of what we do. But that's not the case. All our transfers get leaked. All our sacking of managers get leaked. I still don't think he was going to go this weekend, regardless. I think that article was put out there for a different reason. I think we spoke about that on Saturday. I think it was put out there to make him walk. And he obviously hasn't. He's dug his heels in, which I would have done in that situation as well. And, some would say he's turned it around. I don't think he has at all. I think the players really put in a shift for us Saturday for 20 minutes. And it was brilliant and amazing to watch. But we still go into the next game after the international break. What is our formation? Who do we play in what positions? None of that has been answered. And that's where the key problems lie for me.
I mean, just quickly, there's so much to talk about tonight. I'm reading some of the comments there. Tyrone Williams says, I'm very shocked at how the club is being run. I'm become very disillusioned by what has happened with Mourinho. I'm gutted that it now looks like Mourinho is staying. You know what? Gary Neville said it on Friday night. The way the club's being run is a joke. Somebody's been sacked by the media and he's furious and he wants Mourinho to stay. That's Gary Neville's opinion. I would say the way the club's being run is a joke. It's an embarrassment. It's trial by media. And also, not only that, they're bloody indecisive because they're sacking him Friday night and then they're keeping him Saturday. So they can't even make a bloody decision. I'd respect them more if they'd stuck with the decision, regardless of what people think about it. But we did win a game of football yesterday, Ross. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, the fan cams on the United stand. I don't know whether anybody's seen them all yet, but they're brilliant because most of them were saying, look, it's a great result. It was the best entertainment we've had at Old Trafford all season. But they are Newcastle. They are shit. And they weren't tactics that won us that game. And a lot of them still saying Mourinho needs to go. But there are fans out there saying, no, glory, glory, Man United. Win, lose or draw. Follow the manager. Back the manager. And where do you stand on that now? Do you feel any different after that Newcastle result? Has it changed your opinion? Because I know yesterday when you came on before it, you were a little bit concerned about the result. And I'd sort of said you'd had enough of Mourinho.
I honestly think that the crowd deserve a massive round of applause because I think that they won that game for us. I was numb the whole way watching that, and the way that the crowd got behind our 11 men, I thought was fantastic. And I may have been a bit different in that stadium, to be honest, but the crowd got behind them and it drove the team on. And I think it was the crowd and the team that won that game. I honestly think the only influence Jose had was putting Pogba at centre-back, which did help, but it's just a bizarre move anyway. My opinion hasn't really changed. If today, if you could ask me now, could I get rid of Mourinho next week? Would I? I would. But I think we're going to be stuck with him for a little while. So I'm going to change my tune a little bit, go a little bit more positive, because that's all I can do at the minute, because it'll just kill me, this doom and gloom around Jose at the minute. So I'm hoping he's going to change. I'm hoping he's going to go more attacking in the next game, seeing what he's going to do. But we all know Jose, he is the most stubborn man in football I've ever seen. I'm certain that he still thinks his way is the way to win. And, that's what I think is going to happen.
It's a shame it's the international break because I can't wait for that Chelsea game and I want to talk about that in a moment, but I just want to read a couple of comments because I will never ever hide away from the negative comments. So Jonas says, United stuck with Mourinho, your titles are always so negative. We did an amazing comeback last night and your title was Mourinho out still. Joke. I think you need to understand opinion, mate, because that was my match reaction and I called it Mourinho still out because I'm Mourinho still out. I didn't phone you up, Jonas, and say, what's the title we should go for then? Because that's my opinion. Stuck with Mourinho is, if you actually open your bloody ears up, you'll understand what we're talking about. We are stuck with Jose Mourinho. He was going to be sacked on Friday night. There was clear rumours going out there. Now, why they were out there, I don't know. The club should have got hold of them. They've sent a text to Jose Mourinho saying, ignore the press tomorrow. How's about you put something out into the frigging, I nearly swore there, how's about you sort of put something, instead of sending text messages to Jose Mourinho, who at the end of the day has paid a lot of money to manage our club and has next to no history with this club other than being one of the best managers in the world. You've got fans of this club who've been supporting this club for 60, 70 years, 20 years, however many years. We've got a history with this club. Instead of a bloody text message, how about putting out a public official statement and saying what was in the media last night is a total joke and we were 100% behind this manager? How's about doing that? How's about respecting the hand that feeds you instead of being bloody behind closed doors and Mourinho has to talk about a text message. It's a joke. This is why I'm fed up with Manchester United. This is why I'm fed up with Jose Mourinho, because the way they treat the fans is a bloody joke. Even Mourinho last night, he's talking about how the players won that game and it wasn't about tactics. You've got some United fans today saying, oh, Mourinho deserves loads of credit for the tactics. He himself said it wasn't about tactics in the second half. We spoke about emotion. That's what we spoke about. There were no tactics, and anyone who's played football would know that. There aren't any tactics. But Zidane, agent, Ross, you're not his agent, Ross, Zidane's agent has come out and said he wants the full year off and England is not for him. It wouldn't suit him. So in that sense, just picking up on what you were saying there, and I know a lot of people won't like this, but actually, I've got to be totally honest and say, look, I think Mourinho's finished at United. I agree with you. I thought if we won yesterday, why would you sack him? It's too soon for our board to do it. I think long term, it's just going to be the same old Jose. I think we'll park the bus at Chelsea, we'll park the bus against Juventus, we'll park the bus against Man City, and eventually it'll grind down to what I expect it to be. But if Zidane's not going to be the coach, and I can't see that you get Pochettino, they're actually, are we in a position now, hence the title, Jonas, United stuck with Mourinho? Because you might think Mourinho's not going to be the right man. You might think you want to sack Mourinho. But if there's nobody else, it's a bit like a car saying, I don't like your driving. You kick him out and then no one drives the car. You're going to crash. I mean, with Mourinho, I don't think we're going to do particularly well. But what's the alternative? Because I'll tell you what, I don't want Antonio Conte near my club.
I was quite pleased with that news about Zidane, because I was speaking to you about Saturday. I'd never really wanted him. I think he's a short-termism manager. He's never really built a team. He was given an amazing Real Madrid team. Yeah, made him win the Champions League 3 times, but give him Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, and I don't think he's going to turn us into a Champions League winning team. And he's unproven. And I know people say, how can he be unproven 3 Champions Leagues? He hasn't built a team. He hasn't really had the longevity at a club. So I never personally wanted him, and I get why he won't come to the Premier League. He's got no experience. He's never played here. He may not get it. And the Premier League is an absolute... It just chews up managers and spits them out. I've seen some of the greatest managers in football, Phil Scolari. They just chews them up, spits them out. You have to be serious about managing in the Premier League. And maybe I don't think he's up to it. I keep seeing rumours that he's going to join the board and maybe be the chief executive at Juventus, which, may suit him down to the ground. But I would have liked someone a bit more long-term, an Eddie Howe. I know people laugh at that, but at least he's had some experience in building teams, recruiting players. But I think you're right. Jose's not here to stay. I think if we're lucky, he'll stay to the end of the season, but he'll want out. He'll want out as well. I think he'll want to save some face himself. He's not stupid.
I mean, just on that, Alex Williams has just made a contribution. Thanks, Alex. He says, Eddie Howe should be our next manager. He's young, British, plays exciting football with small resources, wouldn't be under the same pressure as a big-name coach, and he would fit the club's identity. But, just to go back to you on that, Ross, I mean, I suppose the direct question is, look, you can be Mourinho out and say, look, it's not going to work, but actually, at this moment in time, we're better off the devil we know, because I don't think this club would go for Eddie Howe. I just do not think they would go for Eddie Howe. I don't think it's glamorous enough for someone like Ed Woodward. And I know some of his glamorous decisions have backfired terribly, but I just don't think he would do that. Zidane looks unlikely, and like you've said, I can't argue with what you've just said there. And personally, I would go for him. I don't think the class of 92 have got a cat in hope's chance. Then Pochettino, you're not going to get out of Spurs. And then, you probably... I said this yesterday, even if they sacked Mourinho, it wouldn't surprise me if they did get Conte or they did go for Diego Simeone, because they've already appointed 3 defensive coaches, so why not go and do it again? And I think that's where Ryan Giggs was right. It's all right sacking Mourinho, but what if we're in the same place in 2 years? We're all assuming that you sack Mourinho quite rightly because he's not been doing well enough, but do you trust this board to bring the right next manager in? Maybe... Although it means mediocre football and, whatever, and it's not going to be a great season, maybe we're better off sticking with Mourinho at the moment until the summer, and maybe someone like Pochettino does become available.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest issues is to change your style of football so dramatically. Normally it gets worse before it gets better. And I don't think United have the have it in them to let it get worse. I don't think we've got the patience either, and neither's the fans. And that's not a dig because we're used to so much success. But if we were to switch it to an Eddie Howe, he would never turn it around instantly. It would take time.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
that's where I think you're right with a Conte or Simeone. I'd hate to have Diego Simeone at my club. Probably one of the best managers of our generation, but he's just like Jose number two. I don't want that. But short term, it'd probably turn the results around. It'd probably get us further along in the Champions League. So you've got to weigh the two up. But I think United fans are a special bunch, and I think we'd be happy, actually, to be honest, to see it get worse if the football changed. We see people like Martial flourish. We're not so hell bent on results. It is the style of football. It's huge for United, and the style of football will turn results. I don't think this style of football, you may get it short term, but long term, it ends up deconstructing like it did at Chelsea, like it did at Madrid.
Nick Johnson says Jose needs to go, and then there has to be some soul searching at United. We're so far gone from our identity, it's alarming, and I think that fits in very well with what Ross was just saying there. And I also do think that there has to be that patience. You've got to have it. You've got to have that patience, and that to me, I mean, I think we spoke about this yesterday, Ross, as well. Look, Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, of course he's not won anything. That's not what he does. But he has got them playing very good football. He has got them contending for the title. But he came in October. He replaced Brendan Rodgers in the October. And that season, even though he had from October till May, they still finished, I think, 8th in the league. And they didn't obviously win anything. So, even if that patience is really important. But what really resonated with me was what you said there. It's that to start playing the football we want to play, a new manager is highly unlikely to come in and get it going straight away. We're going to have to be very patient about it. And if they're not, I just don't trust. I think this is where Gary Neville's right and Ryan Giggs is right. I don't know whether that is actually even going to be a priority for this board. I think if they were offered quick stability, grind out performances, that's probably what they want, because it's the same as the dollar that's in their pocket. It's results driven, isn't it? It's not really about how the result looks. It is about results.
Absolutely, and that is the signing of Matic and Sanchez. That's not longevity. That's not thinking about the club going forward. That's we need to win now. Which is great to see Sanchez. It's a name that come up in lights. I love him at Old Trafford. I think everyone spoke saying, as much as we love Sanchez, let's go for a Pulisic, let's go for a Dybala, let's break the bank, because it's something that, there's forward thinking, there's planning, there's longevity in it. And you're right. And that comes from the board, and that's where everyone's so frustrated at the minute, because although Jose may have wanted or sanctioned them signings, at some point the board's got to go, hang on, can't we look at all the scouting network? Can't we look at these players instead? But they just seem to just want to short term. Let's win it now. And I don't think that never works. You have to have a long term plan. And you're right, style of football with Jurgen Klopp. He's come in and he's revolutionised Liverpool with a worse win record than Brendan Rodgers. So on paper, a worse manager than Brendan Rodgers gets all the plaudits based on style of football alone. It's got nothing to do with victories or trophies.
Just on that, though, I want to read Ray's comment, but just on that, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Jose Mourinho's got the best win percentage at Manchester United. Yet, people want him to be sacked. It is just weird. He has got the best win percentage out of any Manchester United manager. Now, obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson did it over a very, very long period of time, and this is where we break down the stats. He did it over a long period of time, so obviously your win percentage is going to drop, because when you're a manager for over 20 years, that's going to happen. Obviously, Moyes was shit, and Van Gaal wasn't much better. So, the win percentage thing is irrelevant, but some people want to cling on to that. Ray Carl Brown Amore says we need a fresh start. We are below Arsenal. Come on. Now, this is something I did want to talk about. I mean, Sarri has been at Chelsea for 5 minutes. Emery's been at Arsenal for 5 minutes. Arsenal, having had a difficult start where they lost to Chelsea and City, they're ahead of us. They smashed Fulham 5-1 today away from home. Regardless of the great result we got yesterday, we scraped a 3-2 win against a team that's relegation fodder. And yet you've got Arsenal going and battering Fulham. You've got Chelsea, and both having played on Thursday night as well, the Thursday night voodoo. 3-0 at Southampton, could have been 5-0 for them. Man City and Liverpool, okay, it was a crap game today, but if they were playing any other team, they'd probably smash them as well. It's not just the fact that we've had a bad start to the season. You said it there. It's about the football as well. We're never going to go to Fulham and win 5-1. We're never going to go to Southampton and win 3-0. That's sort of the issue now, isn't it? Because all our rivals, even if we do get results, because we did finish second last season, but we still got bantered. Because all our rivals now, we are by far and above the shittest team out of all our rivals. And that hurts as well.
Yeah, it does. And it's going to be so interesting watching that Chelsea game. Again, another career-defining game for Jose. Yesterday's game, I think it was actually quite funny, like the way it panned out, because I was under the impression that if we'd have gone 1-0 up and held on to that, regardless of a win, we'd have got booed off that pitch.
Yeah.
In 20 minutes, we played some of the best football, well, for me, the best football I've seen since Sir Alex Ferguson left at Old Trafford for 20 minutes. And the mood completely changes, and I get it. It was so enthralling to watch. But
you know what? I don't know how you felt, and I don't know how everyone else felt. But if they're watching the watch along, they know how I felt. As soon as Mata scored that free kick, I said we're going to win this. And even at 2-2, I was talking about winning the game. We've won this game, and people in the live comments were like, "Oh, it was 2-2." I said, "We're winning this game." You just got that, like you say, you got that old United feeling. You knew the Stretford end were going to suck the winner in. It was I was nailed on. I'd have put my mortgage on that, even with the few minutes left at 2-2. It was nailed on. It was a glimpse into what we used to be. The sad thing is, Mourinho admitted it himself. It wasn't his tactics. That was just let the horses run free.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pure kamikaze football. You know, you're not going to go out winning matches by playing Pogba at centre back and allowing him to burst forward into the box. You know, that's not going to work. It worked in that one circumstance where he did, like you said, let the horses run free. But like you just said, the Stretford then sucked the goal in. They did. That was the difference to me. The crowd were just behind that team. And that was the crowd's victory to me. That was the fans that were there at that game. They were special. And it was something of old. Something different happened at Old Trafford yesterday. That ain't going to happen every week, though. That ain't going to happen every week. That was a one-off. So, yeah, we have got to get back to reality a little bit. It's hard. I don't want to be negative because it was so good yesterday and it gave me such a lift. I got to watch Match of the Day for the first time in a long time. But there has got to be a bit of reality there. But if we do get a result, Chelsea, things may look to change. That's the fickle thing about football. 3 bad results, you're on the verge of sack. 3 good results, and you'll be on the verge of a new contract.
Alaher Thurbet says we need a winning manager, long term or not. Zidane inherited great players that were underperforming. He would be the best risk at the moment. And Howard Walters says Jose should stay for at least 2 more seasons. Be right back. Got to finish sniffing this crazy glue. All right, it's a joke. Well done, Howard. Thanks for that contribution from those two. But yeah, you know what? I just think we've said this so many times. You're right about the crowd. That crowd don't get used enough. If you use that crowd, they will suck the ball into the net. We hardly ever do it under Jose, and they did yesterday, and they played with absolute freedom. But Ross is right. If we beat anything can happen in football. Anything can happen in football. And if Mourinho did beat Chelsea next week, then he beats Juventus, then we beat Everton, then we beat Bournemouth, then we beat City, I wouldn't sit here and go, Mourinho's got to go. Because that's football. Football can change in a month. Easily change. Of course it can change. But you've got evidence behind you. And I just think we'll go to Chelsea and we'll park the bus because that's what Jose does. Maybe he'll go gung-ho because he thinks, I may as well give it a go now. You may as well die trying rather than just keep doing what you're doing. But I don't see it because you've got... The trouble with Chelsea, Ross, is that we've got a terrible record there. Prime Sir Alex Ferguson teams didn't win there. So what chance has Banter Mourinho teams got of doing it? It's the perfect game in many ways because... There will be people who want to jump on the positivity of the Newcastle result. There's not going to be, I can't really think of a tougher fixture for Manchester United than Chelsea away. Obviously, Anfield, Etihad, they're tough games. But the reality is, because of our history at Chelsea, if we were to go and win there, that would be something to sort of go, whoa, that's really, really good. And, never say never, but I think most of us are probably thinking... It's back to reality with that game, and and that makes it exciting in itself.
Yeah, that's what makes it so exciting for me because despite what City and Liverpool are doing, I think Chelsea currently are playing the best football in the Premier League, and that's all round. I think they're solid at the back, their midfield's packed, congested, talented, and their forward, apart from Morata aside, is powerful, really powerful. And we've seen a dip in form of Salah and an absolute spike in Hazard.
Well, Hazard's already had a little bit of a subtle pop at Mourinho today, saying, we're playing really well because we're playing really attacking football. I don't know how they've twisted that to be a pop at Mourinho, because Conte was actually the manager last year, but the press is the press. But it's a horrible place for Mourinho to go, because the Chelsea fans treated him like crap on that first game he played Conte. And, although he's their greatest ever manager, they obviously don't respect him that much. And if they, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. The media will jump on that, because they'll be like, he's like he said himself last night. Even if that story about him being sacked on Friday is a load of nonsense, it's massively undermining for him, and everybody jumped on it, and it's massively embarrassing to him, even if it's not true. So it's a massive pressure game for him. I can't see him going any other way than thinking, if we get out of here with a draw, I'll be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think midfield and going forward, we can kind of compete with them. It's just our back line, which is a shambles, and I do worry against the likes of Hazard, Willian, and Pedro. But look, I'm not ruling that out. We've turned over bigger things, bigger clubs, better teams, with worse teams than we got now. I mean, we famously beat Arsenal with nine defenders on the pitch. I do remember.
Well, we beat City last year, didn't they? And they were going to win the title, and that was Mourinho. So
Exactly.
anything can happen. We shouldn't say never.
It's just such a shame for me. Like you said, international break will kill our momentum, and I'd like to have seen 2 other games before this Chelsea game just to pick up some momentum, because it's going into this Chelsea game. Like I said, it's the absolute unknown. We don't know what formation we play. We don't know who's going to play. It's just going to be alien. But the crowd and Pogba as well, if he can play like he did in that final 20 minutes against Newcastle, there's a result then. Like you said, one result at Chelsea, things change. Things change.
I think we're clinging, we're clutching at straws. I think we all know it. But if he played the team in the right way, and they won, great. I mean, what you've got to remember as well is international break, like Ross says, there is momentum. There is some momentum. We've got to cling to that. But it's international break. It's on a Saturday lunchtime, and it's away. A lot of things are against us, so we'll have to wait and see. Manchester United on the rise. MUFC says Eddie Howe is 25-1. Mark, can I come on the show soon? 25-1 is actually huge odds in football, considering transfers, you can be evens, and they're never going to happen in a million years. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock is the show for you to call in. And basically, over the international break, obviously we're going to have loads and loads of shows as per usual. But the big thing we're going to have, we're going to do quite a lot of call-ins, and we're really going to be just talking about United and their future and the board and Mourinho and possible replacements and where we go. That's the theme for the next for the international break, to keep it interesting. So make sure you're tuning in every night at 8 o'clock. But just wanted to talk about Pogba actually, because there was a couple of quotes, and Ferdinand and Scholes spoke again, and very interesting things. But one thing Mourinho did say, he was asked the question about why Pogba was playing as a centre-back. And he said he wasn't a centre-back. Smalling was the centre-back with Matic and Pogba next to him. So sort of a centre-back. But he said it was to give us that ability to bring quality ball out the back. And that wasn't lost on me, because he keeps talking about quality ball out the back. And I know what he's referring to. He's referring to the summer and not having a centre-back bought for him. But what occurred to me is that he keeps going on about the summer and not having the centre-back bought for him. Yesterday, he played Ashley Young at right-back, who was at fault for the 2 goals, and he played Scott McTominay in midfield, who I don't even know why he's wearing a United shirt at the moment. And the 2 players that he was allowed to buy, Fred and Dalot, Fred was on an unused sub, and Dalot wasn't even on the bench. So he keeps hinting at the... And also, he's been here for 5 transfer windows and bought 2 centre-backs. But he keeps wanting to go back to the summer and about this quality of ball from the back, and then he makes silly decisions like that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because this again for me is like, yeah, we won yesterday, but it's just his agenda to try and twist facts just amaze me at times.
Yeah, it does need to give it a rest. Look, it's a point that's never going to go away, because the biggest failing of United is the inability to do that and to carry the ball out from the back as well. I think that's the easiest way teams are suffocating United at the minute, because they say if you man mark all the midfielders, none of the defenders will ever bring it out from the back. They're too scared. And all you'll just get is man marking all over the pitch. There's nothing. And what Pogba did was he didn't really play the ball out from the back. He carried it forward. And when you carry it forward, players have to come at you and close you down. And when they're closing you down, that means they've left their marker and spaces open up quick. And if you've got the vision, you can play that ball. I don't think it's necessarily, it's not a position for Pogba going forward at all. But yeah, he's right. We do need a defender that can play the ball out a little bit. Victor Lindelof was supposed to be that guy, but he just looks too scared. They all look scared because everyone in that team, low on confidence, petrified of making a mistake. And I think that's down to Jose. Look, we've all said this. We said it so many times, Mark. If Pereira or Fred had played the 45 minutes that McTominay played yesterday, I don't think we'd ever see him in the United shirt again.
No. I mean, I've got to say, I do not. I've got to, because there's a few things. Well, let me just read this comment. I'll come back to it. Zach Lemon says Joachim Low has a known reputation for bringing through young talent and players, an attractive brand of football. Don't know why no one mentions him. I don't think he'd ever be Manchester United manager. And also with his cock sniffing, I don't think that the press would destroy him, so he wouldn't be anywhere near Manchester United. But each their own. But I don't look. We won the game yesterday. That's absolutely fantastic. We nearly lost it. I mean, if that Japanese forward Muto, how he misses that 3-0, that's it. Mourinho's not even the manager now. It's gone. It's over. But the non-select, it's the third summer he's done this as well. Mkhitaryan in his first year bought him, didn't play him. Last year Lindelof bought him, didn't play him. This year Fred, £50 million on a midfielder. What do you think it is about Jose Mourinho, about his own signings, treating them like shit when he first signs them? It's like, I can't understand why Fred didn't play yesterday. It makes no sense. He was man of the match against Wolves and he subbed him off and we've hardly seen him since.
I wonder if it's a big up yours to our scouting staff, and I wonder if it's actually Jose making these signings. Because it does seem that he victimises any new player coming in. 2 centre-backs, failed centre-backs. He's happy to admit that. Did he make them signings? I don't know. Our scouting network's been poor. Even during the latter stages of the Sir Alex Ferguson era, and it's never changed since. Some really, really crap signings are coming in and out the door. We have even Memphis. All right, he had the talent. Someone should have spotted that mentality in him. He's a bit of a diva. He's, that should be ruled out straight away. We're not having players like that at United. We make all the gambles and all the wrong players. I think Fred's amazing, and I think he's an actual class purchased by our scouting staff. Don't know why Jose don't want to play him. I do wonder if it is his signing. I really do.
The hilarious thing about yesterday is, and I said it on the watch along as well, is that Scott McTominay, who's basically a reserve Scottish player, starts ahead of 2 players who were in the Brazilian national squad on the last international break. I guarantee Pereira's not in it now because he's not been picked to keep his place at United to go in the Brazil squad. But absolutely hilarious. And you know what? I think the players got us 3 points yesterday. We were saying before the game, I would never lose that game because if we do sack Mourinho, that 3 points could be massive. So, I'm really happy that happened. But some of his selections yesterday, and I don't really know what he was doing with Eric Bailly, taking Eric Bailly off. There's not been any explanation about that. It certainly wasn't an injury. Some people were trying to blame Eric Bailly for the goals when they were clearly Ashley Young's fault. And Scott McTominay was actually at fault for the first goal as well. But it was more Ashley Young. And he subbed Bailly off after 15 minutes to put McTominay at centre-back.
I personally would have taken Bailly off yesterday. Yeah, just Bailly. I think when you go 2-0 down, you have to, as a manager, make a quick assessment of all the players on the pitch. And it's not necessarily who's making the mistakes, it's who's going to get you back into this game.
But but putting McTominay to centre, I understand if we've gone with the back 3, but he actually just put McTominay where Bailly was playing, and they nearly scored again and again. It was odd. Yeah, if it was a back 3, I would have understood it. But he actually just put Scott McTominay in Bailly's position. And then subbed him at half-time.
The pictures, for me, of Bailly after that second goal went in looked like a player that lost his fight. And I think regardless of how poor you are or how crap you are, you've got to have a little bit of fight in you. McTominay may have had that, Bailly didn't. He completely looked like the life had drained out of his face. And I'd have hooked him off at that point when I saw his face. But the McTominay centre-back thing, no, I'd probably put Pogba there, to be honest. That was a bad move, but I don't disagree with the move to take Bailly off. Didn't think he played that bad, just didn't think he was in any mindset to get us back into that game. He looked like giving up.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, just quickly, Rajdol Akaya says, we almost forget Zidane had the best player in the world in his team. Who do we have? Well, yeah, the Zidane thing isn't looking very likely at the moment. But, I mean, what I found interesting about yesterday is that I think, Mourinho did obviously react to the goals. Of course he did. But if you'd won that, especially the winning goal, obviously he was concerned about defence. But what you tend to get is at least a little bit of acknowledgement from the players towards the manager when they're scoring goals like that. When we were scoring those goals yesterday, it just looked like there was a separation between Mourinho and the players were playing for themselves, and the manager was like that. And you talk about Eric Bailly and looking like he's mentally shot. I think what I took from the game yesterday is it was great that we got 3 points, but to me, there are still massive issues. I mean, Rance spoke about it. Mourinho was having a right pop at Martial on the touchline because he sits near there. And Paul Scholes said it after the game. He said, great result, but why is he coming out after the game talking about Scott McTominay, Marcus Rashford being scared on a pitch? If that was me, I'd be furious. Why is he saying those things publicly? I mean, they may have been scared on the pitch, but you don't want your reputation going out there publicly that you're scared on a football pitch. And he again, he's doing things publicly like that. And Scholes said, if that was me, I'd be furious. But yet he goes and says it again. And on Friday, he was talking about how some players don't try as much as others. But then after yesterday's game, he's saying you can't question these players. They're always trying really hard. And it's like, I don't know whether he remembers or thinks about some of the stuff he says. I mean, I don't think McTominay should be playing games for United. I don't think he's good enough. But I certainly felt a bit sorry for him yesterday that he was hooked at half-time because as a young kid, I think, look at Paddy McNair a few years ago. Van Gaal destroyed a really good young player there, subbing him off after half an hour twice, and he's never recovered from it. You've got to be very careful with young players. Rashford's a very young player. He's only 20, putting a lot of effort in, not quite coming off at the moment. But how does that help somebody? And I don't think Mourinho's the sort of person to know the psychological side of football, because I think he obviously isn't an arm-round-the-shoulder manager. So saying public things like that about McTominay and Rashford, it's got to be ill-advised, like Scholes said.
Yeah, for the two things you said, I really disagreed with the way Jose handled that press conference all round, to be honest. I thought it was he had a chance there to uplift the United perspective, and I think he just downplayed it and downgraded it. Yeah, I thought it was a very bad press conference.
Well, Rio went in a minute as well, didn't he? Rio said that, because he was on about being hunted and he's always being hunted. And I think Rio Ferdinand sort of said, that's laughable. You're 8th in the league. You're a Manchester United manager. It's not about being hunted. It's not, basically, he was saying, you're 8th in the league. You've had some bad results. It's not going well. It's not about being hunted. You're not a victim. It's just not going well. And yeah, what's happened with the sacking thing, that's embarrassing and that is wrong. But actually, a lot of the criticism you get is right. The football's not good enough. Where you are in the league is not good enough. And yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, I'll let you carry on. I thought the press conference was a bit odd, because he was asked about people chanting his name. He said, I don't want that. He tried to put the focus on the players. He said it was about the players in the second half. They sort of went off and did their own thing, and it wasn't a tactical thing. It was very weird again. It was a very weird day in general, but it was a very weird... It was almost third person he was speaking. It was almost like he'd resigned, to be honest. It was, which is obviously not going to happen, but he feels very detached when he speaks to the press at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. There was one point, though, what he said prior to the game, which was him picking Martial for the fact that the fans will not only give him a lift, but will give the fans a lift. I thought Martial, until the first goal went in, was very poor. When the Old Trafford fans they got going, he turned. He literally turned into the Martial of old. His confidence come into him. He was trying things, pulling them off. And for 20 minutes, we had the old Martial back. But prior to that, I thought he was dreadful, to be honest. He made all the wrong decisions in the final third. Some of the balls he put in were tragic. If we can get that Martial for the last 20 minutes, great. I can understand why Jose was up and down the touchline shouting at him, because I was doing the same at the TV, to be honest. But that goal spoke volumes to me. That was literally like watching Martial under Van Gaal, that goal. And we've got to keep him on that left wing. And we've got to get Sanchez on the right wing as well. That Sanchez matter Martial across behind Lukaku worked. Fluid, talented footballers. And I think when you're attacking, you need talented footballers.
I
Martial's
just I
great.
just think Matic needs to come out of the team, and I think what Randall
Yeah.
said was quite interesting. If you want someone who can play out from the back, why not just play Matic as a left-sided centre back? Why not? He's very experienced. He's very good on the ball. It means you can play Pogba and Fred as a midfield too, and then, like you say, you could have Sanchez, Mata, and Martial with Lukaku, and then you've got your subs of Rashford, Lingard, people like that, and I think it would work really, really
It's a
well.
great shout. I think it's a great shout because you can't be playing any worse than Bailey Lindelof at the minute. So positionally, I don't think he would struggle. I think, I think that's a great shout actually because at the minute he plays there anyway. He drops back.
He's so close to it, isn't it?
It's stupid, and that is probably the most frustrating thing that I've seen with United since Ferguson left. This is not Jose's style. This is everyone's. A midfielder comes into the centre back role to pick the ball up. Stay in midfield. Wait for the ball. Don't come pick it up. It really frustrates me.
Stephen Diak says Jose's just a drama queen. Look, even as somebody who would like to see him leave and United start again, I've got to say I've got to say two things. One, he's not going, and we should just hope and pray that we will see a change in the team and an approach to the Chelsea game. Because if that happens, I'm not saying I'm willing to give him another chance and be Mourinho in. But he can certainly take that first step to sort of winning a lot of fans back. I don't think he will. I don't think we're going to see what we need to see. But who knows in relation to that. But the most important thing is it is always going to be the brand of football that we play, and I think that's. That was genuinely exciting, that second half yesterday. And the goal, as you said, the Martial goal and between Martial and Pogba, that, to me, I can't think of many good goals we scored last season. So I'll just say for this season, it's hands down the best goal we scored. That was absolutely superb. And that is why I and many others have been saying for a long time, Martial on the left wing and Pogba on the left side of midfield works really well. Because Martial will hog the wing, allowing Pogba to step forward, and they've got a good understanding. And you never see that sort of connection between Martial and Matic or Pogba and Sanchez. And they really have a relationship, obviously off the pitch, but they have a relationship and understanding on the pitch. That goal was brilliant. There was flicks, there was everything, and not everyone can do that.
No, I think when you're looking at a player and you're playing with someone, to actually do things like that, you need to know the talent's there. And if you are Martial, you pass it off to Matic. You know he's never going to run in behind. So it limits what you've got to do. Almost when he's playing with Matic, Martial has to take on that fullback. He's got no other option. With Pogba, there was options there. He could play it back to Pogba, make another move. He trusted that he'd get the ball back every time. I think you're absolutely right. There's definitely a connection there. But that's one connection in that team. Maybe Luke Shaw as well. I think he connected well with them. There needs to be more of that. And the only way you get connections like that is playing players together regularly. If Jose changes the formation, the tactics, the players, again, that will all disband. It'll all disperse. So I think Jose is the only one to blame for the lack of connection in this team.
It is funny because actually when you look at it, yes, Mata's free kick was the spark, but that goal between Pogba and Martial, I think Newcastle at 2-1 with 20 minutes to go, however long they were well set up to score past us. They might get one more, but they're not going to get two. It needed something out of nothing, and that goal from Pogba and Martial. Because let's be honest, I think Martial was fouled for the Mata free kick. Look, that free kick was brilliant, but if you don't get the free kick was a little bit, well, it's a free kick, isn't it? There was nothing. We didn't create it. It was just a foul, but the Pogba Martial goal, that basically won us the game because it was out of nothing. It really hit Newcastle for 6. It was surprising for the crowd, which got the crowd up. And it's so funny that on the day that Mourinho, he was meant to be sacked the night before. I think he would have been sacked if we'd lost that game. The two players he's gone in on the most, the two players who more or less don't want to play for Mourinho, and they're the two players that keep him in the job. It's amazing. It's not, it wasn't Fellaini, it wasn't Lukaku, it wasn't one of his favourites. It was the two players who, let's be honest, they probably don't like each other, Mourinho and Pogba and Mourinho and Martial, but they're the two players that probably saved him his job yesterday.
I think you made a really, really good point about the celebrations as well, Mark, because if I was playing in that team and I was well and truly behind my manager, given the fact that there was rumours that he was going to be sacked, if I scored that winning goal, if I equalised, I'd be running straight over to him like Van Persie did to Van Gaal.
Yeah.
There's none of that. There's none of that in that team. They went away. They were towards the fans, slapping the badge. I loved all that. There was no sign, like you said, towards Jose. He did celebrate alone. And I think that is quite a key point because I would have been with him. I would have been.
Yeah. Well, look, problems don't go overnight, but problems can be healed. But there are problems at Manchester United, and let's be honest. I was saying in the previews, I cannot see a way that Manchester United lose to Newcastle. I couldn't see a way that we wouldn't beat Newcastle. Now, I've got to put my hand up and say that wasn't how I envisaged it at all. We nearly messed that up, but we did win, and to me that just evidences that Newcastle are not a good team. I look at some of the games to come, and I'm going to talk about that with Ross in a moment. But please do drop a like on the video. We've got loads of people watching, so please do drop a like on the video. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes while we're live. But also, remember tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, it is the show where you can call in. And I know a lot of you will have things that you want to say. Both sides. Well, there's so much to talk about, isn't there? But looking at it now, I mean, we've said at the start of the show that... I mean, I haven't even made my mind up on this myself. But if... I don't want Conte. And if that's what they're looking at, I'd rather keep Mourinho. So maybe we're better the devil we know now. But looking at the season ahead... We are in October. It is the second international break now. We've got a good idea of who the movers and shakers are going to be. We've got a good idea about, these new managers at Arsenal and Chelsea and what they're doing. We know what Pochettino's about. We know what Pep's about and Klopp. That's 5 teams there. I think we're 5 points off 4th at the moment, which isn't massive. I think we're only 7 points off the top, which doesn't sound like much, but that's because it's only October. Regardless of what happens with United, what do you think, if Mourinho stays, what do you think our realistic aims for this season are now? Because that, for me, is where you come crashing down to earth on what I think we can achieve this season.
Yeah. No, you're right. Realistic aim. Such a tough one to call. I'd probably say a cup run, an FA Cup win maybe. We come close to it last season. And top 4. I think that's what... And I want to defend him a little bit. I think the board has resigned us to that. Jose's not delivering, we know that. But I still think with Zidane, with the current crop of players that we've got, we'd still be in the same boat. I really do. I think the board have failed Jose. I know he's brought 2 centre-backs in and they haven't worked. Klopp did that. Pep did it with goalkeepers. But everyone makes mistakes. But the difference is, Man City, if Pep makes a mistake with a signing, they just go out and buy another. And if that don't work, they buy another. That doesn't happen at United. He had 1 chance of buying centre-backs and he messed it up. You can't not back him again. So I think the board have resigned us to what we are. And I think if we're going to be angry at anyone, be angry at Jose because he hasn't delivered, but be even more angry at Woodward because, he's holding on to them purse strings too tight for me.
Do you see? I mean, I'll be honest. I think this season, 5th is our ceiling. I don't think we're going to get top 4. Do you think we can get top 4?
Yeah, I do. I think the steam's going to run out of Tottenham at some point. They cannot handle Champions League football, cup runs with their current squad. It's too thin. So that'll fall off. So I don't see Tottenham as a threat. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just how I feel. Arsenal are the bigger threat, but I think when Arsenal start playing good teams, they'll fall apart like they always do. I think they'll happily cruise against the Wolves and the teams like that of this division. But once they start playing teams like us, I think that'd be a really interesting game. They always bottle it, and I think they will under the new manager because the team basically is the same from Wenger, apart from 1 or 2.
It is, I'm glad you said that actually, because I mean, obviously we've got Chelsea next. If we beat Chelsea, then we'd only be maybe 4 points behind them, I think. So. And I mean, it's a big if, but if we do, and then there's momentum, and then you've got Everton and Bournemouth, which suddenly become winnable games instead of worrying games. But no, I think, look, Arsenal have done very well, but I said at the start of the season, if Arsenal get 4th place, Emery deserves Manager of the Year because their squad's not actually that good. And also Arsenal are in the Europa League, and I don't think they're intelligent enough to understand that you've got to pick one. You can't do both. And it's all right at the moment when you're fit, but once you hit March, that'll kill you Thursday to Sunday. So I think Arsenal will tail away. And you're right, if Spurs tail away, then maybe there is a possibility there. You've also got to remember that I think Wolves Wolves are a good footballing team, and if they can keep at it, I think they might be a sort of. No, I don't think they'll get top four, but I think they could push us. But yeah, it's not inconceivable that we get fourth place. But there's so many if buts and maybes with United at the moment. I still think that you lose to Chelsea, you get beat by Juventus, Everton come to Old Trafford and get a point, and suddenly everyone's going Mourinho out again. So, some people already are anyway, myself included. But I think I'm going to ask you this same question, Ross, because that's what we do. But honestly, where are you at the moment? I am still. Mourinho does need to leave Manchester United, but I'm also. I don't know who. I'm just very worried about the board, that if they did get rid of him, who they'd bring in. And actually, if I knew who they were looking at, I might be saying I'd rather keep Mourinho. That's where I am at the moment. Like, for example, if they're thinking of trying to poach Simeone, or they're thinking about getting Conte because he's free, with all due respect, I'd rather stick with Mourinho because I don't see any difference with them. If it maybe was a Pochettino deal or a Zidane deal, then I would be like, yeah, get rid of him and moving on. So although I do think Mourinho's run his course, or he will run his course, and it won't work out, there is a big part of me that's very worried about what this board will do if they move him on.
Do you know what, Mark? I'm just a definition of a flip-flop fan, because I change my mind day by day, and I'm going to go as fickle as to say, if he can turn it around against Chelsea, I'll back him. If he don't, and I think he won't, I'll stick my Jose hat on, like I already did prior to Newcastle, to be honest. I think the first half at Newcastle, to be honest, was so poor it should have outweighed the second half. But I get why it didn't. I get it. It was just such an uplifting experience. But if you look at it logically, there were some huge issues in that game.
And I think that's the brilliance of the Chelsea game, isn't it? Because if Newcastle was just a one-off blip of amazing emotion and effort and the crowd, it will pop at Chelsea. It will. You can't do that at Chelsea. So that either meant something yesterday, or it was just a blip. And if it's a blip, it will get exposed against Chelsea. But you're right. If it means something, and there is genuinely going to be some togetherness and effort and change, and we beat Chelsea, well, we already know Chelsea are a good team. We've got a bad record. That Chelsea game becomes massive, because we'll all know whether yesterday was a joke or not. But I don't necessarily think that's fickle. I think fickle is being Mourinho out in the morning, then I back Mourinho after the Newcastle result. I think the evidence isn't there yet. I think you're right. If after Chelsea we go and win, and it's a big if, then that's not fickle, because then you're like, well, come on, Chelsea are title winners. Elect. We've beaten them at their place, which we never do. We've played really well and we've won it. That's something totally different. I don't see that as fickle. And actually, football's there to have your opinions changed, isn't it? Mo Salah was the best player in the world last season. Now he's a one-season wonder. So
that's crap.
That's
do you know what? I think it's 50-50, probably more towards Mourinho out than in. But I guarantee that there's 95% of United fans that actually want Mourinho to do well. The Mourinho out thing comes from the fact that they've lost faith in him, that he won't turn this around. I guarantee you, if you give everyone a choice of Zidane or Jose doing well at United, would pick Jose. I want him to succeed. I don't want him to fail at our club. I bought into him. I bought into what he was. I've argued his case against rival fans for a couple of years now, and I'm looking like a fool. I want Jose to turn it around. I really do. And that's why I'm going to pin it on the Chelsea game. Because if he turns it around against Chelsea, we will all be happy. There'll be 5% of fans that will still be Jose out because they don't like him. And that is a manhunt, if you ask me. But I want him to turn it around so bad. I really do. But it's just, I've lost faith that he's actually going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, I have said that, and everyone in the live comments will know I backed Mourinho for a very long time. In fact, I was backing Mourinho up until Spurs, I think. That was when I started to be wobble. I really passionately backed him. I really wanted him to be the Mourinho I thought we were going to get. And I would still even say now, I would agree with that. I would rather Mourinho deliver as success than Zidane, because it's obviously better for a club to not have to make a change, to not have to lose players. And I would love this set of players with 3 or 4 more players and Mourinho to be successful, because that would absolutely be the best solution for Manchester United. But realism has to come into it, and I've never seen a manager turn it around from this situation. 8 months of this it's too much, and I don't think he will turn it round. And I think he's displaying the evidence is in Mourinho. I think his press conference on Friday, his after-match stuff yesterday, what happened on Friday night we'll never know, but something did happen. You don't have an article like that just made up. It doesn't happen. And that particular journalist has been very accurate about leaks from United before. Something happened, and we'll probably never know what. And that angers me. But it's a soap opera at the moment. It's a pantomime. And as I said at the start, I'll say again, I just think the way the fans are treated by this club is a bloody joke. And there should have been some clarity from the club. It's not good enough to just give a text message to Jose Mourinho. The fans deserved better than that. And we are in this limbo. And all I'm passionate about is that I just don't want to see a divided fan base. I don't mind different opinions, but I don't like to see what I've seen today where fans are popping at each other for being Mourinho in or Mourinho out. I just think that is down to the club because they haven't got a bloody clue how to lead a club in any way. But I am massively excited about that Chelsea game because I think I personally would agree with a lot of people who are saying we're going to get exposed. But the exciting thing is, what if we don't? What if we don't? Because that will put a cat amongst the pigeons in a very positive way, and it would be wow. What happens here? But I would say as well, Ross, that I would imagine, I sort of touched on it before. I would imagine Jose Mourinho is approaching that game with big trepidation. It wouldn't surprise me if Jose Mourinho, because Phil Brown said it from America. He's been on our show. He works at Sirius. He has got links at United. He's a top bloke, and he said on Friday night, separate to the Mirror thing, he's had it from a very good source that Mourinho would be open to negotiating a severance package. And if Mourinho knows it's done because he's lost the players, would you really fancy going to your old place where you made your name to get humiliated against Chelsea?
I think he would because he's stubborn, and I think he has maybe a blind faith in his style of football. I think he thinks it will work. What I would be worried about if I was him was looking around that dressing room thinking, who's going to fight for me? Who's going to fight for me in that game? It ain't going to be McTominay because, look, he may be your fighter, but he ain't good enough. It is a huge game. I think Jose thinks he can turn it around. I think Jose can turn it around. I just think what you said about the press conference, I think that has an impact bigger than anyone could imagine. I think when you go into press conferences on Friday morning, like he did, the players see that. They all watch that. And I think that was in their heads going into that game. They may not be thinking about it, but they've witnessed it. And that's not going to uplift you. That's what a press conference should do. Fergie used to go in and tear the media to pieces. That's what Jose should have done. Storm out, tore them all to bits. He just doesn't have it in him. And I think that filters through to the players. So his beating of Chelsea, if it's going to happen, needs to start from the very first press conference every time he's in public because it'll filter through to the players and it should be siege fighting mentality.
I'll tell you what I found hilarious today, though, and it just reminded me, and I wish I'd brought it into the show earlier, is Pep Guardiola. Klopp has had the measure of Pep. And today, Pep definitely, 100%, looked at the way Mourinho plays against Klopp. He evolved it and made them a threat on the break. But their defenders, their centre-backs, Laporte and Stones, were fantastic. They never looked like they were going to concede a goal. And Liverpool, who normally average 20 chances a game, I didn't see them have a chance. So City went to Anfield and basically did what Mourinho does. It was a part of the bus, but it was an evolved part of the bus. They defended brilliantly and they burst effectively on the break. And they should have won if Mahrez could take a penalty. So it makes me laugh. And I was almost tempted to praise Mourinho in a tweet, but then I thought, oh, look, an idiot. Because that's not even what we do at the moment. We can't, I think Mourinho could take us to Chelsea and park the bus and get a result, maybe a 0-0, but not this season, because for some reason, he's lost the thing that he was, borders, but he's lost that as well. He's lost that ability to defend. For some reason, we can't defend at the moment, which has been evidenced by... Well, yesterday, quite clearly, defensively, he seems to have lost that. And that is a concern because I don't think we were even capable of going to a Chelsea or an Anfield at the moment and doing what he always was very good at. And what Pep did today, which is, I thought was a Mourinho thing.
Yeah, it's a really good point. He did do a Jose and he should have got a win. It was a Phil Jones penalty. But Look, our defensive weaknesses is made weaker by Jose and his words. And I think Paul Scholes said that post match, that if you're a defender and your manager's coming out in every press conference saying he needs to replace you because you're not good enough, you're not going to go in with full of confidence, going to play the best game ever. So, it's not only down to the players, the recruitment. Jose, which is why he's getting all the stick. You're the head coach of the biggest club in the world. You need to take some of the blame, and I think he is to blame.
Everybody, thanks for your contributions tonight and your comments. Remember, tomorrow night is your show at 8 o'clock. Really looking forward to take your calls. Don't matter what you think, you're welcome to come on and have your say. Please do drop a like on the video. And thanks to Ross for coming on. If you're still there.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Cheers, mate. Yeah, I really enjoyed it tonight. Really did. Thank you.
And what's your social media? At Hazza90, Twitter.
That's the one, mate. Quality content on there, mate.
Definitely. Are you still doing the YouTube?
A little bit. Not as good as yours. I keep saying. I do keep watching yours. And you're banned at the minute, aren't you?
No, I'm on That's Football.
Fair.
Yeah, I've just moved it to there because I'm doing a couple of things on there. So yeah, I did one today actually. But cheers for coming on, mate. Really, really appreciate it.
Man.
And thanks everyone in the comments. Remember, we're into an international break now, but you'll see with the content that's coming up over the next week or so, I really want to delve into the solutions, the problems at Manchester United from a board level, what the solutions are about certain managers, Mourinho, the problems. So that's what we'll be doing. But tomorrow night at 8 o'clock is your show to call in. So thanks everyone for watching. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. No, I'm really